if, you know, if this logic is correct, which is the same logic I used to get my orbit around Kerbin, I should start seeing this orbit around the Mun tighten. So let's see this in practice, especially because, well, I have 39 minutes, so that's gonna, I hope I don't take that long. Great. So I think Periapsis is 1180 kilometers above. I think I'm gonna go, I think 30k is safe for the Mun. I hope it is. Is very uncomfortable. Oh, that looks so close. Let me think about this. I promise I won't take all 38 minutes, but I gotta think. The one problem with this game, so I've tried one Mun landing in the demo, which I don't think is actually possible. And the difficulty I ran into was that the horizon it gave me, you know, the counter it's at the top of the screen when I go here. This counter gives me sea level. I crashed into something several kilometers above sea level, so the Mun seems to have some very high mountains on it. I don't know if that's, let's say, a, you know, 30-kilometer mountain. Like, this is the big problem, is I really don't know what shape it is. So I want to get close, because that will allow me to do my science. But I don't want to get so close that I don't want to get so close that I crash and ruin an otherwise good mission. I don't want to spend too much time doing this, and I kind of want to learn some of this stuff on myself, but I'm going to do a quick wiki search just to see if there's any information on the planet, or maybe it tells me something here. Okay, I'm gonna see if there's something it tells me about the highest point. I feel bad because I should be learning this stuff on my own, but I'm not confident in myself. I'll at least give something nice to look at. Okay, I'm gonna go for 30, but I'm also going to make sure that does not, like, I'm gonna make sure my actual value is 30, that I don't overshoot it when I do my maneuver. So I'll line it up. You'll remember when I was talking about kind of how the maneuver works, you'll sort of notice that this looks a lot more like a straight line, whereas the last time I did the maneuver, it was a circle. So that kind of explains why retrograde, like, as you've already seen by me setting this heading, I'm going to be burning in retrograde. But of course, the shape of this orbit, if you can call it, it's not really an orbit yet. The shape of this is pretty linear, so I'm actually kind of already facing the direction that I need to go. Now it's a 20-second burn, which is absolutely wonderful because that means I won't use a lot of fuel and I can expend, I think it was 50 to establish this orbit. So it means I still have plenty left to return to Kerbin. And again, if I time things correctly, I can take advantage of a lot of Kerbin's gravity to help my descent. Although I'm not very good, so having some fuel to burn is definitely a nice feature. But at this point here, I've kind of got my game plan. I'm going to burn in retrograde at this point here. I'm going to need it for 20 seconds. So by my, for lack of any other tool that I want, I'll cut that time in half, do 10 seconds before, 10 seconds after, sort of evenly distribute it between both sides of the node. And that will hopefully take me to an orbit within 30 kilometers of the surface of the Sun. So I can afford to speed up a little bit. I will definitely not do 1,000 though. But when the minutes are running down like seconds, I really don't want to go any faster than that because I really am done for if I miss this maneuver. Facing the direction that I need to go, wait till I'm at 10 seconds, and then I'm just going to blast these rockets as fast as I can. Again, I won't do the ship view just because you guys have already seen it, but also I really want to make sure that this orbit is doing what I think it's doing. I actually think I've already passed, I've actually already passed the periapsis for the month, so that's a slight mistake, but not the end of the world. You can see the orbit doing what it's supposed to. Oof. 3,400. Okay, that's as close as I want to get. Okay, so I'm going to ditch this maneuver. I think I'm going to try 2 sets of experiments. It'd be kind of cool if I could do... I think the way to do it... Okay, so I'll try and do something really high over the moon. Let's say at 30. Does it say how... No, it doesn't. I kind of wish there was a tool that would tell you how high you are. Oh yeah, and I've only got 50 fuel. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my low-level experiments here. I'm going to try and find something around 300,000, maybe just do it as part of my natural orbit. So this isn't the best orbit. I mean, an ideal orbit would be circular like I did around Kerbin. But I think one of the things that I can do is... Yeah, so I do my experiments where I need to. I'm going to establish a proper orbit around the moon when I want to land on it. When I get around kind of close enough to do my high-level experiments, I'm just going to use this natural, well, not natural, but I'm just going to naturally move along and do them at that point. I'm not actually going to try and establish a point at which I'll do the experiments. When I hit this point again, I suspect I'll be able to use, I think maybe if I hit my rockets here or something like that. Basically, I'm just going to be able to use, I'm going to use less fuel so that I can get back to Kerbin, and I can conserve some of that fuel. But before I do any of that, it has been over an hour since the last break. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to get up, stretch. I encourage you to do the same. Again, the term I've borrowed from Lethal Frag, but I actually think it's a very good idea, especially if you are doing sedentary activity like video games such as myself. So I don't want to spend more than 3 minutes. I'll be back at 9:30 Pacific, and thank you for watching. All right, thanks everyone for waiting. I apologize if anybody got hit by a fairly large volume spike. This is a odd difficulty that I have with my headset. I'm not entirely sure what causes that, but I can assure you that the stream broadcast about a quarter of whatever the increase was on my own. I believe I still have my hearing, but just barely. Okay, So, to recap, after some failed starts, we did finally establish something resembling an orbit around the moon, or Mun. I am a little worried about my fuel, because I do need to get home, and the purpose of this particular excursion was to get some science around the moon. The ship that I designed, sorry, I say designed, this is largely based off of Scott Manley's tutorials for Kerbal Space Program. The problem is that I had exhausted I'd exhausted the material. Like, I did start the stream with a game that I'd already started, but I've actually hit the point where I've watched the tutorial, so I'm kind of flying blind. I'm trying to use as much reason as I can to conduct this, but I basically watched up to the design of a ship sort of like this. I ran into some problems, so I did have to make a couple of minor changes. But the idea here is that I've got 2 goo canisters. Now, part of that is for symmetry. But I also have 2 science compartments. I can't remember exactly what these are called right now. So, where you can argue symmetry for the mystery goo containers, it's perhaps a little less convincing of an argument when you are stacking on 2 fairly heavy things that you're going to need to drag around space. So, the reason for that is I want to get 1 set of observations for a high orbit over the moon, and 1 set of observations at the lower point of my orbit, which I'm hoping at 30 kilometers is not going to cause me to crash into something. We'll find out, I suppose. So, because I'm a little bit worried about fuel, what I'm going to do is just speed the game up so that I can get to... I don't even really know what counts as a high orbit. I'm going to say somewhere around here, and just kind of do a set of experiments kind of in that natural area, I suppose is the way to put it. And then just kind of step out when I hit periapsis. And then the ideal would be that I can kind of conserve as much of my orbit as I can to get back to Kerbin and not really run into any kind of fuel problems. I think it took me about 50 fuel to establish the orbit around the Mun. So, with 58, I shouldn't have any problems. I also believe I was carrying some heavier material at the time as well. But it has been a fairly good run, so I don't really want to risk anything. In fact, I kind of don't want to just save and restore stuff. Actually, no, you know what? I've already got an autosave, so I'll leave it at that. I've got the game plan, but right now I'm way too high to do any meaningful science. So at this point, I'm just going to go to the regular view, and I'm just going to watch this number go down with time speeding. Let's say 300,000. We'll give it a try there. Again, I suppose if I miss it, I can always just use the orbit and go back, but there's really no reason to miss that. I'm speeding up because I'm impatient, but I don't see any reason to have to do this twice. I'll dramatically slow down once I'm at the 3s. Okay, maybe not that much. bit lower than I intended, but let's do a crew report. Okay, space high over the moon, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And as Alex pointed out, the writer will cry if I don't read the material. So I despise this fact of a lot of streams that just read all the material out. But you look down at the cold gray surface. It looks really beat up with craters. That is the only line I will read aloud on this stream. But this is to confirm to the writer friend that indeed I do read the material that his brethren write. Alright, so we've got that. Next thing that I'm going to do is observe the materials bay. That's the less dramatic side of the ship. There is stuff that happens. Hopefully, when I get at the periapsis and do the other experiments, that will be apparent. But I will also observe the mystery goo. Right. So now I'm going to go to the map. I won't speed up too much because I do not. I mean, if I'm concerned about hitting a mountain, speeding up into one is probably not the best idea. Okay, that's one hell of a mountain if I do, so that maybe it's probably a fear spawned from a lot of that's a fear spawned from the zoom that I was at. Still doesn't hurt to be too careful. So I believe there's a trick that if I step out of the capsule, I am allowed to do another crew report. But I'll do all the other things first, just so I can get those out of the way, and that way I only need to make one trip to collect everything. And that's this is a point that Lex, my veteran friend who got me into this game, had raised. He said, you know, why are you decoupling your science modules when you, you know, you're not going to be able to take them back to Kerbin with you? That's absolutely true, but my astronaut will be going back. So as long as my astronaut collects those materials, he'll be fine. Or I'll still collect those ideas, or whatever you call them. All right, so regrettably, this is still on the dark. Okay, actually, you know what I can do? Just turn the ship around. So you can see what happens. I'm going to conduct some more experiments. Observe the materials bay. So it's near. Again, I get some more science from that. I'll observe the goo. Oh, you know what I could have done? No, I can still do an EVA outside the ship. Or, sorry, an EVA will always be done outside the ship, but I can still do one closer, or when I'm on the other side. So I think I can still collect all of the science that I need. Okay, now this is a little tricky. Yeah, I'd rather not be sideways for this, to be honest. Is it? Yeah, so if I turn to... Oh, north, of course. So I believe that will have slightly more intuitive controls. Okay, so I'm going to take that data. I will get a EVA report. And now I'm going to jump off, activate my suit, and ever so carefully collect the thing. Actually, I'll start with the bottom stuff. Ever so carefully collect things out of these modules. Oops, I am really inelegant with my maneuvering. Okay, great. Oh. I'd love to show you Jebediah's smiling face, but as you can see, I do not want to send him careening off into space. Although I'm sure he'd have a very happy expression on his face. Okay, so we'll naturally flow back. Okay, grab the ladder. I can't show you Jebediah's smiling face because the sun is not on it. Well, you can see an eye there. It's the best I can give you, I'm afraid. Alright, so I should just be able to climb up the ladder. Yeah, and it gives me a chance to board. Great! So, that is what I came here for. If I didn't have... So if the rocket wasn't on here, I'd just jettison all this stuff right away. But I do actually need to get home, so I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do, though, is... I'm going to speed up until I get back to 30 again, actually. Actually, no, I'm going to take advantage of the time right now. I really like the look of some of this stuff, actually. I'm sorry, it's a complete distraction, but this is... I know there's some beautification mods in that, but there's something about just the aesthetic of this game, which is it's nice. I don't think I would have expected to have been able to see a perspective like this in a game before. So. All right, so I'm going to take advantage of my, the extra time I have right now to set a waypoint. And this will be probably a little repetitive at this point, but again, my intention is to go back to Kerbin. And so that means I want to expand the orbit that I'm currently in so that I get caught inside Kerbin's orbit. And that will mean firing prograde into my existing, on the current path that I'm on right now. Now, as I learned just before the stream, I can really set any kind of a broad path, and then I can manipulate it after the fact so that I can actually find something that will work with Kerbin. So at this point here, I'm just going to kind of fire wherever I want. Oh, actually, and that winds up working very well. So can I get a good periaps? Yeah, 32 periaps on Kerbin is just fine, but I can basically put myself on a collision course, which is even better because then I mean, at this point, I am going to use all of my... I'm going to use all of my fuel to do this maneuver, which I'm not entirely sure how it does this, which frightens me a little bit. But this will... Apparently, using all of the fuel for this will get me back to Kerbin in one go. And almost certainly will not take all 58. So I think the idea here is by expanding this, I'm still kind of doing a curve into the moon. And so I suppose I do something like this eventually. I suppose I kind of go out and around. I follow part of the moon's orbit, and that just pulls me back into Kerbin. I never actually got to see whether or not the stream actually shows where my mouse is moving. I suspect it doesn't. So when I say stuff like this, and I probably do one of these, I'm trying to get better at it, but I am conscious that basically I wind up saying something that maybe isn't apparent to the audience right away. So sorry about that. As always, as encouraged in the original post, any light mockery is encouraged, as well as encouragement, commentary. I'd certainly appreciate any feedback of what you guys would like to see, because I'm going to have fun playing games whether I'm streaming them or not. But ideally, this is a chance for me to share some of this hobby with you guys, and especially something like Kerbal Space Program, where I'm accidentally learning along the way. If there's something that I could be clearer on, or if there's something that could be better elaborated, better done, I'm certainly quite open to that feedback, because if I can make it more fun for everyone, we'll probably get where we want to with this stream. Although there's some ideas that I have which I have not elaborated on yet. All right. So at this point, the one thing I'm hoping is that this maneuver does not happen at about 30 or 300 kilometers, because I still need to record a little bit of science. I suspect it won't. But speed it up a bit. Let's just see how far away I moved. Okay, so if I'm at 200 now, yeah, I'm definitely not going to overshoot my spot. And of course, this is the important thing too. If let's just say that this was before 300 kilometers, there's nothing stopping me from just going back again. Now, it does present a small challenge in the fact that I am trying to get back to Kerbin and the moon is moving. So I may need to move the waypoint somewhere else. But that's fairly minor. In fact, that's maybe the one thing I didn't appreciate when I was saying, oh, I guess I kind of go out and around the side, is that when I'm actually doing this maneuver, it's possible I'll actually just be moving into this existing orbit here without a lot of, for lack of a better term, without a lot of sophistication, right? That I basically just kind of tilt myself into that existing orbit. We'll see how it works. But I won't question how the navigation computer works these things out. I'll just I will thank whatever forces made it so that I don't need to do those calculations myself. I've gotten better at math since I was interested in. I'm still interested in space, but since I had a much stronger interest in these matters. But I suspect I am not at a rocket scientist level. Okay, let's get a crew report. I actually think I already got one of these, but... And let's see if I can get away with doing another EVA report. Fantastic. Okay, so that's basically all the science that I can get from this situation, which is exactly what I was wanting to get. At this point, as long as I can get back home, this will be a fantastic success. I guess I shouldn't really care that much about this horizon line just because that's the one for the moon, and eventually I'm going to be interested in Kerbin's. But similar maneuver to what I've done before. I've already kind of plotted my maneuver. I am pointing myself into what will be prograde when I reach this point here, but it's 33 minutes. Now, it estimates that it's going to take me 38 seconds to burn. Again, for lack of any better device, I've decided to divide that in half and then use half before I hit the node and half after so that the work is kind of evenly distributed. It makes intuitive sense to me. But I mean, I suppose the whole story of a good majority of the discoveries I found most interesting is that the counterintuitive ones are the ones that really make big breakthroughs. But I have a feeling that if the ideal point to do this motion is in the center, and because this needs to be done over a certain period of time, dividing it in two is going to be the way that I minimize the deviance from that ideal point. So again, I suspect I probably don't need to do graduate school to figure out that idea. So I'm already facing the direction I want to go. I noticed that occasionally it goes a little askew, but there's no reason not to speed up at this point. And I'll definitely slow down before just 19 seconds, but okay, slow right down now. I'll get it to the minute mark just so I can kind of set everything right. And actually, it looks like the course held basically where I wanted it to, so that's good. And at the risk of completely jinxing this run, I suspect I have got more than enough fuel for this, but we'll see. Okay, so at 19 seconds, I'm gonna let her rip. Okay, looks like it's doing what I want it to. Okay, so it's not perfect, but let's see. Intended Apple apps. 12. Yeah, okay, that's more than enough. Now, what I'm really curious about here is that I'm still kind of on course for this escape, and it's not really showing me what's going on. Now, again, if I remove this waypoint, this is where I should be heading, right? So at this point, I'm just going to cross my fingers and see how this magic works. Oh yeah, okay. So I just fold straight into it. Nice. Okay. So yeah, I had more than enough fuel. I probably could have established a proper orbit around the moon, but at this point it doesn't matter. In fact, what I could do is jettison the I could jettison the tools right away. Um, I'm not quite sure how this game handles this. Well, I suppose if it's still following if it is following a proper orbit, it's still going to wind up crashing onto the planet anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter when I jettison these things. I suppose it's nice to have the option anyway. The thing I was thinking of is, what if this winds up in a real orbit around the planet? I understand that one of the problems that they run into in any kind of space travel is actually keeping track not just of the sort of things that can crash into craft naturally, but all of the junk that has been put up there based on the previous expeditions. I'm not sure if this game actually keeps the debris in orbit or not, but that'd be a fascinating problem to run into, which is, if you have a number of unsuccessful attempts like me and they wind up, um, if they wind up in orbit around Kerbin, do you need to track them and hope that they don't collide with your ship at an important point? Because, I mean, right now this orbit's 135.5 meters a second, right? You definitely do not want to be hit by anything going at 135.5 meters a second. But neither here nor there. It doesn't tell me what periapse is, but I mean, you can't clearly see. But the reason you don't see periapsis here is because it's inside the planet. I'm not too concerned if it wasn't, because I'll just give an example of a maneuver I could do here. Let's burn retrograde. If I burn retrograde too far, I suspect I'll wind up missing the planet. No, I just go straight into it. Yeah, so I suppose if I wanted to be miraculously inefficient, I could burn. Oh, it'd only be 7 seconds. Okay, so apparently I could make it so it's a straight line into Kerbin. That strikes me as a very inelegant maneuver. Although I suspect probably safer for wherever this rocket fuel lands. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to follow the orbit as nature intended, and remember to deploy my parachute. Sorry for the wonky speed changes. Oh, there we go. We can see exactly where we're landing on the planet. Sorry for the wonky speed changes. I actually know that the game will actually reset where my speed rating once I enter the atmosphere, but I am still very paranoid about that because, again, this is the first successful run of the 2.5 hours that this stream has been going. So, got a nice view of the planet. How about we turn the ship around? Okay, that's maybe a little too much. I believe the parachute will still kind of deploy the way it's supposed to, but just make it look a little tidier. Whoa. Okay, so jettison at this point. And as much as I would like to speed it up, I would frankly not want to cause any potential death of this successful run, so we are just going to enjoy a 4-kilometer drop to the planet below, and the parachute will probably open at about 500 meters, which is where we wind up waiting. We can enjoy the scenery. I don't know if that's dawn or sunset. I think it's dawn. Yeah, that is definitely not dawn because the sun is right above me. I don't know what I was thinking. Again, this ticker is at sea level, so I believe I will be falling the full 300 meters, but a nice little indicator, of course, is where your shadow lies. Once the shadow gets bigger, you're closer to the ground, and you know your journey's coming to an end. So the alternative method that I could have used would be to try and fit this with some landing gear and make it so that basically this contraption, for lack of a better term, has a soft landing on the planet, and that would preserve whatever science was observed. The problem with this is I'm not quite sure how landing gear handles a water landing, which is exactly what I wound up with here. So, do I really want to engage in some kind of an activity that could potentially destroy some of that science that I had? Not really. And I'm going to have a big rocket at the end of my capsule anyway. So in this case, what I decided to do was just put all of my science material on a decoupler. And then it's just Jebediah's job when he's outside, because he's going to be doing an EVA report anyway, to collect the science from those modules, so I don't really care if they get destroyed on re-entry. Which in this case, again, there doesn't appear to be any kind of a re-entry effect. So all that this is simply a, it's avoiding any potential problems that are created by a water landing or the landing gear being wrecked or anything like that. And it seems to me to be a good principle that, maybe the moon is a fairly quote unquote easy target for somebody who's more experienced in this game than me. I mean, this is everything that's been happening in this stream is effectively the first time I've been doing any of this, which is why it takes so many attempts. But I think the best practice about it is, let's say I was doing something really far out into the solar system. I mean, let's see how far I can go from this. Okay, apparently I'm just limited to the planet, but there was I did do a view of the solar system earlier in the stream. Do you really want to go to Pluto, get all of that research done, and find out that your landing gear didn't work properly, so you lost one of your experiments? That is definitely the least ideal situation. And so even though a moon landing might be, well, we didn't even do a landing, a moon orbit, might be a quote-unquote trivial thing to a more seasoned player, it seems to me that that kind of design is a fairly good practice to ensure that you preserve as much of the science that you've done. I spent some time talking, but what this was basically a 3-day, 5-hour mission to go to the moon and back. Clearly didn't take us 3 days, 5 hours. But I think it's time that we put this mission to an end, and let's see the science that we got. $289. I am very happy with that. I'm a little surprised about this crew report while high over them. Oh, right. I think that's because I already got one of those. Yeah, so that was 2 crew reports high above. Only one of them counted, which is, I'm perfectly fine with that. So actually, I've been skipping over this. So Jebediah came through fine. That's not surprising. So let's maybe take a review about what this means. We had the crew look out the window, see what they could when they were high over the moon. We did a material study, which is what one of those science capsules below the command module was. We had the mystery goo, which we observed as well. That gave us 30 science. Notice that the materials study gave us much more, but that's neither here nor there. We did a mystery goo when near the moon, which was also worth 30. And then we did another material study, which was worth 75. So this is a nice thing, right, is that if you're going to be doing an orbit, you're going to be high and low over the moon. So effectively, those turn into 150 if you bring 2 materials modules and 60 for the mystery goo. And so effectively, just by putting those 4 pieces on my ship, as long as I could establish even the most... I mean, that was a very lopsided orbit. Even though I had something like that, I effectively guaranteed myself... What did I say? 75 each, so that's 150, and then 60, so 210 science. Then on top of that, of course, I had an EVA report, which was both... I believe that I did one high and over a specific part of the moon. Yeah, over the Midlands and over high space. So there's another 24 there. And then we recovered a vessel from orbit around the moon. This is a nice feature, is that, you know, if I establish an orbit around Kerbin, I get some science. If I establish an orbit around the moon, I get some science. And that's basically, in addition to claiming the science that I already got, just simply the fact that the machine survives is another way that I can claim some of that science. So that's what all this report means. And I can go to the R&D complex. Now, I know I had some plans for the science that I got. I mean, I think most of the stuff that I want, yeah, 90 science, 90. I think I can buy all of this, to be completely honest with you. I don't remember exactly what I wanted to get, though. I'm told the thermometer is very good. I should get that now, actually. And electricity. Need to spend a minute thinking about this, actually. I'll go to the Science Archive. Actually, it's nice to maybe take a review of some of the things that have happened here. So presumably I can do more material studies and mystery goo when I come back to the moon. I suspect that will be a surface mission. Although I'm curious if I can... I wonder if my surface mission I can have a material study module on its own for that. And if I can bring other ones for the machine that's going to be orbiting. I'm going to need to think about that. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of science that I'm missing out of that. It looks, well, I don't know. It's a third, and it's of 75 and 30, so that's 10, and, you know, round it to 80, so, well. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's not trivial, especially given the fact that, you know, when I went to Kerbin, I was happy to get, you know, a crew report from the grasslands for like 150, so, I mean... And I mean, this I got for its full value, right? That means I did 2 trips to the grasslands. So, yeah, I mean, I think I should be looking to get that extra. You know, I've honestly not put any thought in terms of how I actually do a moon landing. So, if I can have a ship that orbits the moon while a module goes down and lands on it, then I can see it being very easy for me to get the material study and the mystery goo. If I need to have all the same stuff go on the moon, then that would mean 2 for the orbit, 1 for the actual landing on it. So that's 3 science modules, 3 mystery goo containers. I need to bring enough fuel to get it there, and then I also need to bring enough fuel so that I can not only land on the moon, but so that I can actually launch and bring it back in. And I know there's a limit to how much science that I can actually put in that command capsule, so it could turn out that I get there, I spend all of that energy to move that material, and it turns out that, I can't use any of it just because um, I don't have enough space in the module to get it. Although I suppose if I can land on the moon, I should be able to do a landing on the planet. I don't know. I'm gonna need to think when I design my moon landing ship. But let's go back to technology and see what we can get. So the really expensive stuff for 160. Barometer. Okay, so Telus Mobility. I wonder if whoever designed this knows that there's a Canadian company called Telus. Okay, so Advanced Exploration has something to commend it because I'm almost certain that that barometer is a science device. Advanced Electronics. That looks like solar panels. Which is encouraging, but I really don't know what the electricity is used for. I mean, I put batteries on this machine, but I never actually seem to use them. So this precision engineering seems to be for designing smaller things. Oh, but that requires advanced flight control, so I couldn't even get that before. So I can definitely get this. Landing gear. Engineers are nothing if not optimistic. Now I know why I shouldn't be missing the writing in this game. This is very clever. Okay, so probes and lightweight land. Well, again, I mean, that's certainly the next logical step to actually do a landing on the moon. Advanced flight control. See, now when I was playing the demo, these things seemed to be helpful in terms of directing the ship in orbit. But when I think about it, the majority of control issues I had were things like the fuel tanks not properly jettisoning. So I don't actually know if this is really going to, like the RCS, if that's actually going to do that much. Now, I mean, it has something to commend it because it gives me access to precision engineering, but precision engineering, there's no one piece. I mean, I haven't used any of this stuff. I don't even think it was in the demo. Or if it was, I just never wound up using it. But it... so obviously small parts is supposed to be landing rovers. It's supposed to be... it's supposed to be the kind of stuff that I want to get into, so there's an argument for it, but do I really gain anything by spending a lot of science on something that I don't actually know how it works? Again, flight control. I mean, at least latest. Okay, I really need to keep reading the titles of these things. These are actually quite funny. This definitely has a lot to commend it because I do tend to notice that direction is leading me to some inefficiencies in terms of my fuel use, and certainly when I want to go to planets that are further out, I'm going to want to get the most out of the fuel that I'm using. But, well, and I mean, direction probably matters for a landing, so, I can't completely dismiss that either. I'm not even going to consider this one because if it's 90 and 160, that's... Oh wait, no, because that's 250. Or no, yeah, so I don't have enough for that. So I got to consider advanced flight control, electronics, which I literally do not know. I need to know what electricity does. Advanced exploration right now seems to have this benefit of the Presmat barometer. And I mean, that's easy science for me to pick up. I can just do basic rockets and fire these things into Kerbin again, just for the easy science. Although I have no idea how much this is going to give me, so I don't know if I should check the wiki or not, because it is kind of fun to learn this stuff on your own. Again, landing, I don't even know where to begin with that. General construction. Okay, so certainly my ridiculous ships benefit from these steps, but this is definitely not worth buying for the current ships that I'm designing. Unless, of course, it leads to some advance. Yeah, so if I wanted aerodynamic. Oh, yeah, that's one I didn't look at. So what? Jet fuel? Oh! Somebody said something about space planes in this game. So I'm assuming that's what this is for. I have no idea what a space plane does. Kind of like the rest of these. Okay. So I need construction if I want aerodynamics. Aerodynamics is 90. General construction is 45, so I'd be using 130 something. Definitely could not get... No, if I use 130, that'd still give me enough to get advanced flight control. But not enough for advanced electrics. And advanced rocketry is... Okay, well, I mean, advanced rocketry certainly has a lot to go for it, just in the fact that it's cheap and it has a fuel tank with it. Okay. I think the way to handle it, especially just I've been thinking to myself for a little too long now, I also have reason to believe there's a lot more of this stuff to research. So advanced rocketry is 45. Advanced electronics is 160, so that's 205. That'd still give me 40 left over, so I wouldn't be able to get both of these and one of these advanced options. I think maybe I should check, I don't know if I'll do a wiki or something like that, but I'll maybe ask some advice when I step out. I think I'm just going to be a little bit early on my break. And again, get up, stretch, encourage you to do the same, and I will try and sort out what I'm doing for my next mission based off of that. I'd like to say it's going to be 3 minutes, but I think I might take a little bit longer on that just because this is hour number 3 of the stream. Thank you all for watching, but I think I'm going to need a little bit of a minute to figure out what my next step is and find out what I'm spending the science on. Alright, thanks a lot. right. Thank you very much for waiting. Let me just remove the text here. So I think the best approach for me at this point for the game would be to go to sandbox mode. I think I should try out the different parts that I have before I go any further. I mean, sandbox mode seems to me to be a great way to find out which of these parts I'm actually going to use, find out what the devil a solar panel or even a battery is supposed to do for that matter. And I think I should just come back in the next stream with maybe better knowledge about what my next steps are going to be. I didn't actually expect... I mean, it wasn't quickly. It did take me about 3 hours to do a successful orbit around the moon. But I definitely wound up with a... it wasn't certain that was going to be successful. It was either going to work the first try or it was going to be a grind. So I definitely accomplished what I set it out for tonight, but it does leave me a little bit shy of what my original closing time was going to be. So I think I'm going to end this particular session of Kerbal Space Program on a high note and just get back to it once I have a little bit more knowledge and once I kind of understand what I want to do in this career mode next. So let's save the game. And now I need to find out what I would like to stream instead. Okay. Just bear with me a second here. I'm going to need to set up... Oh, I think I know something that would work. It's going to take me a minute to set up whatever I wind up streaming next anyway. But I think I have a reasonably fun, very different kind of title. Actually, I have two, maybe three options that I can do, which is definitely a very different change of pace. Okay. Well, this should be an interesting experience.
For years now, Stephen Harper... For years now, Stephen Harper.
Oh, well, that's a slight problem. Okay, I think that's the best I'm gonna get it. So, it's Lufrausers. This is quite fun. Although I don't know what's happened to the audio. Hopefully that'll be fixed. I don't remember the fire button. Oh god. So the premise of this game is basically to take all of the wild inventions from between World War II and the Cold War into this flying ace that repairs itself when not firing and basically wreaks havoc on the... I don't even know what theater this is. Certainly there is a lot of very stereotypical German imagery in this game, but there's quite a big deal with this, I think it's Dutch developer, Lambeer, stressing that the characters were not Nazis, that this was... I think the premise of the game is that these are... I mean, basically, this is spy footage of a stereotypical bad guy. And it's basically intelligence footage of these new planes. The nice feature of this game is that the soundtrack changes depending on what ship you're flying. And you die a lot. I die a lot. I don't know about other people who play this game. Just take a minute to arrange my desktop in a slightly more sane fashion. Alright, so let's go to the hangar and see... Oh, I went on everything. Okay, let's not do that. Yeah, part of the progression of this game is completing missions with different outfits. I've basically done everything I can with these weapons. The exception being with the random ones. Submarines are actually very difficult to kill, I've noticed. I'm not crazy about the bomb body, but I've also noticed that I haven't killed... Again, I gotta kill a submarine with the random weapon, gotta kill a submarine with this body, so I might as well do it there. The Gungeon is... I actually like that engine. And that one I need to score over 15,000, which, to be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure I can accomplish with this outfit, but let's give it a try. That up pretty good, actually. you definitely get more points for running up a combo, but I'm definitely much more interested in surviving long enough to get a submarine, although getting a submarine will be kind of determined by how many things I can kill. Of course, I do not intend to be idle in the time that I spend here, so I suspect time will be a function of... Or sorry, the submarines will be a function of time anyway, just because I spend the time destroying things. You can crash your ship into others, and it's actually a fairly decent strategy so long as you have a fairly reliable getaway. The problem is that there will be more bullets the more bullets, so I should have to also trying to be a little... bombs well, but this stuff is hard to dodge. This is the one problem with streaming a game like this, is that it's basically going to consist of a number of very embarrassing reactions on my part, so I don't know how much time I'll put into this. But I'll try and at least get to a round number in terms of what the stream's doing, and hopefully something a little more action-packed will be mildly fun at least. Okay, this is manageable actually, I like just the regular machine. Except when I crash into the ocean. The nice thing about the Gungeon is if you're running away, I'm not too worried about the fighters in midair, just ultimately because if I run away from them, their pursuit of me will basically mean I usually get some free shots in. They don't always seem to die when I hit those, so that's a small... I also don't believe the Gungeon counts against your firing. Again, occasionally I'll just turn around and fire just to preserve the rally, but unfortunately multiplayer I really Okay, well that's a blimp on its way to me. I have no idea if I can handle it though. I'll be happy if I just find a Ooh, that hurts. I suspect probably a World War flying ace should not be running away, but that's great. Good lord. I'm curious if enemies stop spawning when the blimp does. That was dumb. That wasn't even a very good score for the time that I took. Okay, this is all fourth ship. So again, the weapon, you'll notice the weapon kind of changes. That's just because I set it to random. If I could aim with this thing, I'd do very well, but unfortunately I can't. So. I suppose I will do my best. There's no educational content to be derived from this game, but that's the Kerbal Space Program era is done for tonight. It has also been a while since I played this. Okay, yep, I can handle that ship. It's been a while since I played this, so I'm putting in a pretty pathetic performance as well. There's an argument so that one of the bodies is a nuke, which if I get destroyed, destroys basically everything on the screen. So I wanted a cheesy submarine kill. I just find one and suicide into it, and make a good kill on it. But I'm not gonna kill 3 subs. Well, okay, if I kill 3 subs, sorry, I could conceivably kill 3 subs doing that, but it would take a long time and it would not be very fun. Whereas this, no matter how terrible I'm performing, at least I feel like I'm somewhat moving on some rounds. One problem I'm running into is that I do have bombs on this body, which I'm simply not using. But part of that's just because I notice when I get a little bold and start doing multiple runs on things like battleships, that tends to be when I like it. It also says that these are seeking missiles. I think that's a very charitable explanation. I'm also not sure if my running into the water is actually all that good of a strategy. I mean, I think it is because it means I avoid the worst of the attacks. But it does mean that when I re-emerge, I've got very low health, so I've got a lot of low-flying projectiles, which is normally where they're going to go if I go in the water. It just basically means that I die in one hit when we emerge, so I think if I was a little bit better. Okay, if I was a little bit better at maneuvering, that would be a better technique, or if I use the propeller rather than the gunner. But I gotta get my score somehow, so. Oh, okay, suicide bombing the battleship is bad idea. This will be interesting. I am not a fan of the really good in principle, but it just doesn't do that much damage, and it makes it very hard to navigate. The majority of these kills are just coming from bombing into them. Okay, the laser's not as bad Actually, I've never done sustained fire on a battleship. That could actually be really fun. Or not. Definitely not a time to do the at all costs approach. Actually, this might be fairly if I wasn't an idiot. Okay, good. The game had mercy on me. One of the things I like about the game, they do advertise that you can get different color modes. It does have kind of the very old-fashioned kind of arcade-ish approach, which I think actually suits this game very well. I'm not so convinced about its other modes. I mean, you know, there's different kinds of old monitors, right? You've got the green, the pure green kind of Apple II-ish sort of screen. The one problem is that this is mildly appealing, right? It has its own kind of style, it's got its own look. I do think it has sort of this nice, again, if the intention of this game is to be kind of imaginary security footage of intelligence footage of these mystery weapons that are being deployed against quote-unquote the Allies. I thought I was dead. Then I think this works really well, especially because your health winds up being this sort of collapsing circle that you keep seeing because you're dying so much. So that, you know, that has sort of a film equivalent. That's sort of the vignetting that you get from a very old lens, or not very good lens. So all of that kind of supports the aesthetic. Once you start going to some of the other color styles, which maybe I'll show, I don't know if that makes for compelling viewing. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure this makes for very compelling viewing either. Feedback on that would be wonderful, by the way. If this was any better than Kerbal, or if Kerbal was better than that, or better than this. I do have some other more Kerbal-oriented kind of things to show. In any case, the current style, I think, suits the game very well. Let's see if I can bring it back. The rest of the world probably awfully. So yeah, I mean, the color palette suits the, you know, the found footage view. These are the other. Okay, this is okay. You know, definitely, you can say matches the old arcade style. I am not entirely sure it's not entirely sure it serves it as well. I also think it's a bug with the scientists still showing up. As evidence, I have actually sunk a submarine before. I have not obliterated the alt. Oh yes, I remember this. Bad expression. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's do a little more. This is the important thing too, like the achievements are unlocked by killing a submarine with that particular combination. So the cheese strategy would be to arm myself with a nuke body for the majority of submarine kill once, but that would not give me my submarine kill for a proper body. So the idea is that, you know, I'm going to have to learn to kill a submarine with my conventional weapons anyway. I might as well get the practice now, because honestly I don't think the nuke body is that good. I think the nuke body is for when you can't handle a particular enemy or you're looking for an achievement. I'll be honest, the music selection for this particular combination is maybe I'll do a kind of vanilla round just to show it the original. I actually think the original song is good. So this is basically the way that the game is out of the box. I swear I was good at this. I do that. Alright, well that wasn't a bad run. So yeah, I'm going to test this hypothesis that enemies stop spawning when you get to the front. Because that gives you good motivation to actually take out some ships. dying moments, it exacts its revenge. Oh, this is interesting. That's terrible way to use this action. Actually, this one is most like purple. Gravity. Greed is always my enemy. Alright. With the fist of God. I turn around and it's like a one more. Honestly, in this game, I think the machine gun is actually my favorite weapons. I can put out a lot of volume, and yeah, I can put a lot of volume. Put out a lot of volume and just generally sustain with it. So I'm out of this. I'm going to load up one more game for the evening. I do normally play it on the PC, but the PC does not stream as well as the Mac. So this is basically going to be as if I just installed the game today. So just 1 second.
For years now, Stephen Harper's government has been accused of
That's inconvenient. Okay, just 1 second while I reset. Yeah, windowed mode is nice, but well, it looks nice on my screen. Let me just take a second. Oh God. What did that look like? Yeah, it still doesn't work for me. Okay, one last try. I'm sorry about some of these technical things. It is the first stream, so I do not intend these to be recurring. I actually did not intend to switch games, but I think there's kind of a limit in terms of what I can do with Kerbal without just completely destroying that save. And certainly it'd be nice to get all of the kinks out before I do anything too serious. Okay. Doesn't seem to be anything I can do about lift trousers. Kerbal isn't showing up anymore though. What do I do about this? Plus side, this has a very nice soundtrack, so it's a little less irritating when you have nice music to listen to. Ah, nice. Okay, so I know how I'm going to do this next time as well. Alright. So I have beat the flagship once on this title. It's unfortunately that was on easy though, so sorry about the volume here just a second. Yeah, so that was on easy, and I'm not entirely sure how to handle it on a normal visual, to be honest with you. But the only difference really is scrap, so assuming that I'm efficient in my scrap use, that shouldn't matter. Yeah, so I only have Kestrel A because this is a new game. I don't know if the Advanced Edition content makes it any easier or harder, but at this point, I mean, Advanced has been out for a while now, so I might as well just go with it. For those who haven't played it, the story of this game is basically you have the plans from the Rebel fleet. Rebels are not the good guys in this particular space drama. You have plans of a super ship that they're going to use to win a war. You need to get through, I believe it's 8 or 9 sectors. I think it's 8 sectors. You improve your ship over those sectors, and all of that is in preparation to actually fight the Rebel flagship, the thing that you have the plans for. And if you successfully defeat it, you win. If you do not, then you have to go over from the start. It's part of something known as the roguelike genre, which is very rewarding to play, but generally very difficult. This is a game that really, you can only blame yourself if you succeed, and you can only blame yourself if you fail. I do much more of the latter, which should make this a mildly entertaining run. So, engines will give you a certain degree of defense. I'm not crazy about using rockets, to be totally honest. So, one of the things about this game is you try and divide this. You want to get through things reasonably quickly, because if you take too long in a sector, the Rebel fleet will catch up with you, and you have to fight increasingly difficult opponents for a little reward. But you also don't just want to blast through a sector, because then you won't have anything for that final fight. So I'm going to go up here into nebulas. These tend to slow the rebel fleet, and I can still kind of navigate through these areas here. So I can kind of see where I sit, let's say, after this jump. I can basically get to the same places no matter which one I go to. And from there, I can sort of, I can choose my battles. If I feel like the fleet is hot on my heels, then I will, rush to the exit. If the two nebulae slowed them down, then, I can be a little bit more selective in terms of where I go. So. Okay, let's fight him. Oh, that's discouraging. Oh, I'm not firing at it, that's why. That was very dumb of me, actually. Should turn on auto fire. It has been a while since I played this game, by the way, so that's why I make dumb mistakes like that. I mean, that does wind up being quite costly. Simply because those are resources that, I'm either going to need to repair my ship, I'm going to need that health in a fight that's very difficult. This game is definitely very unforgiving in terms of, oh, this is nice. The game can be quite unforgiving in terms of your mistakes, so with that in mind, we'll push through. I don't like the idea of just kind of resetting a. I don't like the idea of just kind of resetting a game because things didn't turn out the way that you want. You learn more from working through situations that maybe aren't to your advantage. Nice. I don't understand. Oh, okay. That's bad, actually. Yeah, so what's happened here is there's some kind of a hack that's been performed on my shields. This particular drone is a really nasty one. Beam weapons tend to do a lot of damage to your ship very quickly, so the nice thing about missiles is they do bypass shields, so I'm going to target the drone right away to stop that damage, and then I'll also target its weapon systems. Oh, maybe it wasn't a hack, maybe it was just that. Okay. That's good. I should be giving him some more training, but I kind of want to get this stuff prepared just in case one of those, in case the drone comes back. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not in a good space in terms of health. Losing this much health in the first couple sectors is actually pretty bad. It cost me 50 for extra shields. I don't really have the power for it, but or do I? Cool. I'm the kind of captain that cancels the oxygen. Breathing's a privilege, not a right. I don't know what that is, but it looks awful. Okay, you're allowed to breathe again. This is gonna suck. So here I'm just opening the doors to my ship because clearly a fire's not going to operate without oxygen. I gotta get out of here before that flares again though. Another drone. So I'm not crazy about the fact that I don't have that much oxygen in these areas, but actually, this will at least spread out what they have.